Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, whichever realms of existence you are, whatever mind states you're in, whatever conditions you're in. You are, as always, welcome to my channel. So another jogging with the Dharma episode today in my new series, Testing the Gold. I didn't highlight that in the first episode, but that's what I'm doing now with these videos. It's part of my hitting the wall process, both present and in the past. I've gone through and did as the Buddha taught, not to just accept the teachings, but to test them as you would gold. So, and there isn't a better time to do that than when you're hitting the wall with the doubts and questions that cause you to hit the wall. Sorry, it's muddy going through here, so pay attention to what I'm doing. Anyway, so yeah, and this is something I've done not just in my time in Jodo Shinshu at the times when I've hit the wall, but just throughout my explorations of Buddhism. I've followed what Shakyamuni taught, that we should not just accept the teachings or the sutras or what have you without thoroughly questioning, examining them, investigating the truth for ourselves. So, and that's what I've been doing for a lot of decades. Let me tell you, lots of decades. And Buddhism is not meant to be an exception from that, contrary to what certain circles might say, that somehow Buddhist teachings, the teachings of the Buddha, should just get a pass. No, that's not what the Buddha taught. And you're not somehow slandering the Dharma or abusing the Dharma by questioning it, by testing it as though you would test gold. And gold can take a lot. When you are the things that you test gold with, the processes by which gold is tested are pretty intensive processes. And you know what? I think the Dharma can handle it. Anyway, so as I say, episode 2 in the Testing the Gold series, or whatever I'm going to call it. And so what I want to talk about today is one of the things that truly is one of the reasons why Buddhism, I've always come back to Buddhism, and it's been my mainstay, my main returning home point throughout my spiritual and philosophical journeys. The reason for that, well, one of many reasons, but a major one that has just recently been highlighted and popped out for me during my reflecting in the last video I made in the series, in the first video I made in the series, is that of all the religions and spiritual paths, Buddhism is the only one that wants to end all of this. Buddhism is the only one that wants to end samsaric existence from bottom to top, like all the way up through the highest realms. The goal of Buddhism is to end suffering, and all those realms have suffering. So the goal of Buddhism is the cessation of suffering, and all beings realize Buddha nature and realize nirvana, suchness, and become Buddhas themselves and help all the beings, obviously. But the ultimate goal is to end all suffering, which means end all existences in samsaric existence. Sort of as we experience them as unenlightened beings. It wants to end that. And no other spiritual path wants to do that. Okay, there's two that I can kind of identify that want to kind of eliminate part of it. There's two that more or less want to eliminate everything up to and including the Karmaloka. So off the hills up through the Karmaloka God realms. Anything in the desire up through the desire realm, they want gone. But not those above. And these two are Gnostic paths as well as Hindu paths. They sort of want to partially eliminate, but even in those cases, some of those paths don't want to eliminate that, or they don't want it even eliminate completely, although it's looked at down very harshly. So, and they don't want, but they don't, Hinduism and Gnosticism don't want to eliminate basically the form realms up through the non-form realms, because that's where their gods are. That's where their highest masters are and things. That's where they believe. So they don't want that to be eliminated from their, they see that as the goal for beings to get to, more or less. And then other religions, particularly Abrahamic religions, not only don't want to eliminate what we look at as samsaric cosmology, they don't want to, not only do they not want to eliminate that, they actually want it to be perpetuated and believe it's a good thing created by their deity, created by their so-called God. And the teachings are, that this is a good creation, and you should, be fruitful and multiply, and have children and families and keep it all going, and pass on to them the same teachings so that they perpetuate it themselves. So, and there's a lot of other religions that are very similar to that. And then even if you go with more like naturalistic ones, they don't want to get rid of it. Pagans don't want to get rid of these realms. It's part of their fun. They just get reborn in all of them and just have a good old time in them all. And they certainly, anyway, same with the New Agers, same with, what else was I thinking about that? They think reincarnation is a good thing. A lot of these religions that, Abrahamic religions don't believe in. Religions that believe in some kind of reincarnation, they think that's a good thing. Obviously, Buddhist teaching is different about rebirth. It's not the same teaching at all. But anyway, but we don't think rebirth, the cycle of death and rebirth, is a good thing. We don't think that's good, and we want it to end. And so and then Gnosticism, Taoism. Now, there's a lot of really good things about Taoism. Okay, but ultimately, if you look at Taoism, it basically says the Tao is ruthless. It takes care of everything, and and all of that, and it makes the problem is basically consciousness. That if you can just be completely detached from everything you do, and you don't really think about it, basically, and you just do without doing, and are just in flow with the Tao, that's it. And that's the ultimate aim. There's no real hope in it, because that happens, and then you die, basically. and your energy gets put back into the system to keep it perpetuated, and then it doesn't, and Taoism just kind of, wants it to just keep going, or it just keeps going. It's tough shit, basically. It's going to keep going. It's very similar to how people try to rationalize, our existence in other, like, philosophical paths. But anyway, but there are good things in Taoism, but it's kind of dropped in my estimation of it quite a bit, as far as where it stands beneath Buddhism. It's much further below. It's still above all the other paths, but it's way, 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 way below Buddhism. So anyway, so even Taoism doesn't want to eliminate this. It's just, you just get comfortable with being in it. You just get peaceful about being in this horrible, cyclical, it's very harmonious, a harmony of violence and sickness and death and harm and creatures feeding off each other and everyone using each other. It's very harmonious. It definitely all works in a kind of cyclical, kind of harmonious way, but it sucks. So even Taoism is not exempt from that. My kind of looking at that. Sorry, I didn't mean to come down this far. Anyway, but Buddhism is the only one, spiritually speaking or religiously speaking, is the only path that wants to get rid of all of it, from the hells all the way up through the formless realms. That's the ultimate aim. It's the only one. Now, the only philosophical path that, for some, the implications are that it's the best thing to end things, is philosophical pessimism. Certain strains or certain people within philosophical pessimism and antinatalism, and it's probably a small minority of them that are in that kind of school of thought, that are extinctionists. They literally think, I won't go into the whole reasoning, but they do think the best thing is for all sentient life to end. They do believe that. They think that that would be the best thing. Anything that has like a nervous system, has any kind of feelings and things like that, it's better for it not to have been born in their philosophy. And it's better that at least humans end their own existence, end the human existence, kind of, extinct humanity, basically. I don't agree with this. I'm not a proponent of that at all. Nor of extincting any other species or any other sentient beings, not in the way that they talk, that philosophical minority of philosophical pessimists, antinatalists, and extinctionists talk about that as the best thing. But even for that, even though they see that it's a bad thing, it's a hopeless end, because all they're doing is just, their solution in that path is just ending, human consciousness and human, existence, and all sentient beings, anything with a nervous system ending, and that's it. They just end, and the universe just goes on. The problem is the universe will keep, in their philosophical framework, the universe will keep perpetuating that somewhere else. So it's not a very skillful philosophy. It's not a very helpful one or hopeful. It just doesn't really give you anything in the end. It's the most hopeless philosophy and school of thought you could possibly come up with. But I can see why they arrive at those conclusions if they don't have any spiritual kind of belief or Buddhism, basically. So anyway, So basically, that's a huge reason for me that Buddhism is like the superior religion. It just is. It just is the best possible spiritual path, the best possible religious path, the most skillful, the most hopeful, the most helpful that you could have because of that, because that is its goal. And even the way that it would do that, even the teaching is compassionate. It's not a hope. The teaching of the cessation of suffering is a compassionate, wise teaching, not a hopeless one, not a partial one. It's a compassionate, wise, and gives a very specific way for suffering to end, and provides that path. Whereas nothing else does that. Nothing else does that. In any real integritous, sensible way. It just doesn't. So yeah, that's one of my major reasons why I think Buddhism is the superior religion for me. That's how I should say it. It is the best, the most superior religion for me. No other religion really makes any sense to me, really. They're not logical. They don't have an integrity to them. There's always a kind of patchwork you have to do philosophically or spiritually speaking, to, mental gymnastics you have to do to piece it together, and then, well, maybe this, and, well, it's God's will that, and blah, 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 freaking blah. Whereas Buddhism, you don't really have to do that. It's not in the same way. The things that you need to do in Buddhism is just, you still need to question it like I'm doing. You still need to test it like I'm doing. You still need to examine it. And you need to examine not only the teaching, but also the world and existence and your experience. You need to examine all those things. That's part of Buddhism, part of teaching Buddhism for yourself. And test all that against, and test that, that's part of your testing the Dharma. Because then when you do that, when you examine all those things, you see, that's what Buddhism says. That is what that jives with the teachings. I'm seeing it for myself. So that's part of the reason for this series. And so yeah, because that's one of the, probably one of the top 10 reasons I find that Buddhism is the best, superior, supreme religion for me. Is because it wants to eliminate all suffering, which means it wants to eliminate all samsaric cosmology, which is suffering. So, all right, that's it. And I'm Ep2.